You're listening to Operation Self Reset with Jake Naraki. This is the moment where you reset your life. Hey guys, welcome back to Operation Self Reset, the one and only place to change the way you think, act, and believe in yourself. And what do you guys think of that new introduction, huh? That music? Does that get you going, huh? Is this like, you know what, I'm now motivated, I'm inspired, let's do this, let's reset our lives, yeah! No, you're not? Okay, well, you know what, I'm going to keep changing it up until I find that exact song that everybody can just be super inspired and super motivated. I don't think that's ever going to happen, so I'm going to stick with this for the time being, and we'll see how it goes. So stay posted. I might change it. I might keep it. We'll see. If you guys have any suggestions for me, please send me an email on operationselfreset.com, or also, just leave a comment, and we'll go from there. So we'll kind of see what happens. So today's subject, I'm going to give you a scenario. So say you have a newborn, and it's up all night. What are you going to grab the next morning? Yes, coffee. Good old-fashioned Joe. And why did you think I spoke of a baby? Well, early in podcast number 1, I told you guys I was expecting a baby boy in my life, and sure enough, May 10th of this year at 4:23 p.m., my wife and I, well, mostly my wife, delivered a 9-pound, 12-ounce baby boy. We went with the name of Nolan Jacob Naraki, and he is an awesome little guy. We're enjoying the heck out of him. But I will say, there are some moments, especially in the wee early hours, that you question, what is going on with this kid, right? But the key that I have found out, and if you guys are listening to this at like 4 a.m. and you can't put that boy or girl to sleep, the car seat. Put him in the car seat, lock him up in there, and rock that sucker, and you'll be good as gold. Or you could put him in the car seat, go in the car, drive around the block, whatever you got to do, but try to get some rest. So that's what rolled me into today's subject. A friend of mine emailed me an article about bulletproof coffee. What? Bulletproof coffee? Does that mean you need to wear a bulletproof vest while drinking coffee? Hence the name Bulletproof Coffee. No, you do not, but that would be absolutely hilarious. Could you imagine that? Your wife seeing you in a bulletproof vest drinking coffee? No? Okay. But anyway, so I started reading this article and kind of looking at it, and as I was going down the page, I was like, this sounds ridiculous. So Cliff Note version is that basically you take your favorite cup of coffee. It doesn't matter if it's Folgers or you go to Starbucks or Caribou Coffee or whatever. I'm not sponsored, so I can say whatever I want. You add a couple of different elements in the coffee. What are those elements? You're going to add 2 things, okay? About a tablespoon of grass-fed butter. What? Butter in coffee? You're nuts. No, I'm not nuts. Hear me out. And the second thing you're going to add is either coconut oil or MCT oil. MCT oil, if you don't know what that is basically a condensed version of coconut oil. It's almost like the super coconut oil. So the next question you probably have is, why do I need to do this? Why can't I just drink my regular coffee? And that is a great point. And that's why I went after the creator of the Bulletproof Coffee. His name is Dave Aspray. He also owns a website called The Bulletproof Executive, where he kind of, over the last couple of years, he took $250,000 and biohacked his body. And along the process, he found this technique of adding butter in his coffee. It sounds ridiculous. You're like, why should I do this? I'm going to get all fat and I'm going to smell like coconuts and all that crazy stuff. Well, you're not, because I have actually tried it a few times, and I will say it has sustained my caffeine buzz longer than any cup of coffee I've ever tried, and also, too, no crash at the end of drinking a good amount of coffee. I'm not saying I'm going to be drinking a pot or anything like that, but I'd say at least 2.5 cups, 3 cups of coffee. And that's a lot for me. But obviously, everybody's different. So that is why I brought Dave Aspray on the podcast, and we're going to dive right in the interview with Dave Aspray. So here we go, and we'll see you on the other side of the interview. Enjoy. All right, welcome to the podcast today. We have Dave Aspray from the Bulletproof Executive. Dave is a silicone investor. He is an entrepreneur. He's a computer specialist, and he spent the last 15 years upgrading his body, spending $250,000 to upgrade his brain, and he lost 100 pounds without using calories or exercise. Dave, thank you again for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time, and let's dive into the content. The way I found about Dave was basically a friend of mine suggested a new type type of coffee called the Bulletproof coffee. And he sent me a link to your website, and I started diving into it and understanding the concept behind it. Do you mind sharing a little bit of, how did you find out about this coffee, and what are the benefits that you have been seeing from the people using this?
I've been a coffee fan for many, many years, Jacob. And so I had to give up coffee because I started to feel like I was getting these sometimes headaches, or I'd feel agitated after I had coffee, or I'd crash. I'd drink it, I'd feel good, and then I'd just want to go to sleep if I didn't have another cup. I even was getting sore joints from some coffee and not others. And I just, being a biohacker, got a little frustrated. So I started digging in on all this agricultural research and putting together multiple different domains of expertise. And what I found out was that there's a major problem with the way we process coffee. And the processing of coffee ends with roasting and brewing. And that's where most coffee companies spend all their time. Oh, fresh roasted, fresh roasted. Yeah, fresh roasting matters. That's as part of the process. But if what you put into the fresh roaster has heat stable toxins in it that came about from when the coffee was growing or when the coffee was turned into green coffee, it has a different effect on your inflammation levels and a different effect on your brain. So I set about to engineer a process to make coffee into green coffee that would prevent histamine and aflatoxin and ochratoxin, all these other nasty toxins that are effective at a parts per million level, and succeeded. So Upgraded Coffee, which is the name for my coffee beans that you use to brew into Bulletproof coffee, is it's a new kind of coffee, and it uses the Bulletproof process that controls every step of the coffee production process to optimize human performance and health instead of optimizing for cost, which is what most coffee does. Or in a few cases, they optimize for flavor, but they ignore health. And I've had some Cup of Excellence winning. These are sort of the Olympic medalists of coffee. Some of that stuff has mold toxin in it. I drink it, and I'm like, wow, I feel kind of not like myself now. And well, it has to do with very small details. When you get the small details right, you make huge improvements in how you feel when you drink your coffee.
Oh, for sure. The energy level that you receive is totally beneficial. That's why almost every person in America loves it. Now, can you go into, putting butter in your coffee is pretty mind-blowing when you tell somebody about it. I mean, I told a couple of people about this, and they're just like, oh, okay, butter and coffee. Do you mind kind of going into that then?
Sure. The reason you put butter and MCT oil in your coffee, and I'll explain what MCT oil is in a minute, is that your body craves fat, and your body has a hard time absorbing enough of the healthy fat that you really need. So when you, instead of having some random milk which raises insulin, or having whatever the heck is in a Frappuccino or something like that, if you instead choose to put grass-fed butter and an extract of coconut oil that's 6 times stronger than coconut oil, which is called MCT oil. I have that on, I think you actually link that on your site, right, in the show notes?
Yeah,
it's called upgraded, upgraded MCT oil. It has no flavor. So you put a little bit of upgraded MCT and a couple tablespoons of butter, and you blend it. It doesn't taste buttery or gross. It actually tastes amazingly creamy and delicious, and it makes you want more. Your body tells you flat out, like, this is what I should have right now. And I designed this because I was in Tibet at extremely high altitude, like 17,000 feet for a couple days around Mount Kailash. And I kept drinking this yak butter tea that they make in Tibet, and it was like life-giving. I felt so much better on this that I started asking myself, why do these nomadic people who are still like having yaks pull their tents around, why do they carry a wooden butter churn with them? And why do they use it to make tea? Instead of just like eating a stick of butter, they have bowls of butter. You don't need this, 10-pound wooden thing. And the reason they were doing it is because when you blend the butter into the tea, it has a different effect on your body. And when you blend the butter into coffee, you feel amazing. And you get a huge burst of energy that comes specifically from the medium chain triglyceride oil.
Interesting. Very interesting. Have you tried that yak butter tea? I mean, obviously that's what got you into it. I mean, the people kind of explained to you the process, and that got your brain kind of.
Well, I mean, I watched them make it. They would take, some lumps of lumps of yak butter tea. Lumps of yak butter. These big, yellow, amazing things, and they would turn those into into butter or into tea by putting them inside the butter churn itself, and then they would just brew some green tea and they would just dump it right in there, and then they would just like you. It's kind of funny. They grab the handle and they pump it up and down. Which if you don't have a blender, that's the first blender, and then they'd pour it into a cup. There's a little bit of foam on top, and I was like, that's disgusting. And the first time I had it, it tasted like feta cheese. It was rancid butter, but that's because I was by the road. When you get out into the country where the fresh stuff is, it's amazing. You get this just like a buzz from it. And this is with very weak tea. So when I came back to the States, I tried making butter tea, and it was actually gross because I didn't understand all the tricks. And over the next year, I started okay, how do we really biohack this? Does it matter what butter you use? Yes, it absolutely matters. It needs to be butter from grass-fed cows without salt in it. Although in Tibet, they do put salt in their tea because they're at high altitude, and I'm a fan of salt. It just doesn't taste good in coffee. Then when you use the right coffee and you do it, and you add this amazing energy boosting MCT stuff, you get a mental focus like you've never had before. I've also had people lose half a pound to a pound a day for good periods of time. And usually, in fact, a recent UFC fighter who emailed me, a guy, I didn't have any deals with him. He just kind of out of the blue said, I discovered Bulletproof Coffee 2 weeks ago, and I'm down 16 pounds. I'm not going to have to and this guy, he's ripped. His job is to, kick people's asses. Right. And he's like, I don't have to make weight for my next fight. I'm already at weight. And it was effortless. It just happened.
Awesome.
So this is one of those things where it sounds gross. You try it one time and you'll be like, oh, now I get it because of the mental focus. And then you'll look in the mirror 4 or 5 days later and say, did that really just happen? And I increased my fat and I felt good. And another client, I do executive coaching stuff, mostly for
Sure.
investment bankers and hedge fund traders and entrepreneurs and people who are really pushing their limits cognitively and stress wise. And this woman, she says, Dave, I can't keep any food in my house because I'll eat it. I have terrible sugar cravings all the time. She had Bulletproof coffee for breakfast, and she called me 2 hours later and she said, I don't have any food cravings. I don't want sugar. It's gone.
Oh.
Literally in one day, your food cravings can just be turned off. And the trick there is you only have Bulletproof coffee for breakfast. Don't add sugar. Don't add other weird protein or even vegetables. Just have that. And it'll unleash a feeling inside you that you didn't know you had, most likely. And then you'll start adding stuff back in and whatever else. But every day, this is what I have for breakfast. Unless I'm at some kind of business breakfast, or every now and then I make my own bacon, I cure it myself. And, I'll have bacon or something with my coffee. But the vast majority of the time, I have this stuff, and then I'm not hungry, and I have no food cravings. I don't even think about food until 2 p.m. And then I can have food, or I could leave it. I could wait till dinner. I still eat my 2,000 to 4,000 calories a day, depending on what I'm doing. No problems there. I eat really nutritious food. It's just I eat on my terms. Food doesn't dictate anything to me anymore, and Bulletproof coffee is at the core of that. Bulletproof diet helps, but the coffee rocks.
Yeah. Right, for sure. Well, especially too with the, when you said don't put sugar or anything like that in there, wow, people are probably going to be like, don't put sugar in my coffee. That's like a staple. You know what I mean? That's like putting, bringing turkey to a Thanksgiving dinner. So it's going to be a thing that people need to adjust. But actually, I have tried it for the last, I'd say about a week now, and honestly, it is absolutely unbelievable, the change in, mental performance, but also just well-being, and you feel satisfied. You feel like your body has been craving this for so long. And the one thing that you really harp on about the grass-fed butter is something that we try to reduce out of our daily diet as just general people. When we see fat from meat, we try to cut that out. And obviously there's good fats and bad fats. But the one thing that you describe is that, making sure that our body is taking in those really good fats to kind of help, our body grow. And one thing you also really talk about is about your brain and how your brain kind of uses that fat to its advantage and it accelerates it. So it's a really unbelievable process, and I thank you for sharing that, because I think it really affects a lot of people, and the people listening out there are really going to benefit from it. The question I have is, now, you say you're a biohacker. Now, where did this start from? I mean, this isn't something that, you start looking at when you're a little kid. I mean, where did you really kind of get the wits and the know-how of going, you know what, I'm really going to dive into some of these things that are surrounding my life?
Well, getting into biohacking is something for me that was deeply personal, because my brain was shutting down in my mid-20s. I could feel cognitive problems. I did a 3D radioactive scan of my brain called the SPECT scan, and it showed I had no metabolic activity in my prefrontal cortex when I tried to concentrate. I also weighed 300 pounds. It's fortunate that I was one of the early people at the company that helped to create modern cloud computing called Exodus Communications. So I made $6 million when I was 26. And the most important thing that I could think of was to not die. And I had the blood test that said I was at high risk for stroke and heart attack, even though I wasn't 30. So I decided to step up to the plate and put my money where my mouth was. My doctor told me vitamin C would kill me, so I fired him. And I spent 4 years and about $250,000 working really hard on my own health. It's unfortunate that company went bankrupt, and I'm not retired on an island somewhere. But that is what happened in the dot-com boom. So it occurred to me about two and a half years ago that it's not really fair. I've had a phenomenal career in Silicon Valley. I've been a venture capitalist on Sand Hill Road and a senior executive at other companies doing strategy. And it's not really fair that I got this advantage where I can walk around looking like I lift weights all the time when I don't, and I'm not fat, even though almost everyone I know is getting fat now. And it's just... And I've had 20 IQ points added to my IQ through some of the stuff I do. And a lot of what I do is just unknown. It's not common knowledge, and some of it flies in the face of conventional wisdom. And I believe conventional wisdom is oftentimes making people not just sick, but it's making them weak. And it's taking away their focus and their mental energy, and they're walking around only like 10% of what they're capable of being. So why shouldn't I share the info? So I wrote my first book, which is called The Better Baby Book. Wiley published it. And that book is about what do you do to set your kids up with the right genes and the biggest brains that your genes are going to give them so that we can solve this problem multi-generationally, because you have the most leverage when you're very young. And then the Bulletproof Executive, which has all this free info, like 250,000 words with like hundreds and actually thousands of links to research that backs up what I'm talking about. I put that stuff up there because I want to help people. I want to see less sick people. Like, I want to live in a world where most people feel great all the time because people are nicer to each other, they make better decisions, and they stop like destroying the oceans and, killing the salmon where I live. Thank you, Norway, for doing that. And stuff like that. So I just want the world to be a better place. And I think if people feel better and they perform better, that's going to happen. So that's where all the biohacking stuff came from, enlightened self-interest. And I'm sharing it because it helps people a lot in a very short period of time.
For sure. Obviously this podcast is Operation Self-Reset, changing the person you are to the person you want to be. A lot of the things that revolves around this is, improving yourself, figuring out your mindset, figuring out your passion and all that kind of fun stuff. One thing that so many people complain about that I've been getting messages about is they don't have enough time. And one of the things that I saw on your website, the bulletproofexecutive.com, is that about the sleep schedule, about how you can actually gain about 16 or 20 years of actual extra life living if you reduce your sleep hours to about 5 hours.
About 5 or 6. I did 2 years on 5 hours of sleep a night or less, sometimes only 2 hours a night, and got an enormous amount done. I moved to a new country, started a new job as a senior executive at a big company. And at the same time, I started the Bulletproof blog and published my book with one of the top publishing houses in New York. Wow. I also have 2 young kids, and I spent time with my kids. I see my family. I cook them dinner and things like that. How can I do it? Well, when everyone else goes to sleep, I have an extra 3 or 4 hours. It's pretty helpful to do that. It can destroy your health. If you get adrenal dysfunction, you don't support your adrenal glands, and you don't listen to your body, you can hurt yourself. So that said, if you do it right, you can train yourself to get more efficient sleep and to sleep less. And the military does it all the time. And you can train yourself to perform better with less stress, even if you're a little bit tired. There's a study linked on my site that shows people who sleep 6.5 hours a night live longer than people who sleep 8 hours a night. And people who sleep 9 hours a night live less long than people who sleep 7 hours a night. So the idea that you need 8 hours sounds like complete BS to me. I'd also say this is a correlation study, not a causation study, which means we can't say you will live longer if you sleep 6.5 hours a night. What it says is that if you are healthy enough to feel well rested and recovered in 6.5 hours a night, you're going to live longer. So my goal is to take such good care of my body and my brain and my adrenal glands and everything else that I can thrive on less sleep. And it's been my experience that it's possible. And my followers have also had similar results. Your number may be 5.5 hours, but it's probably better than it is now. And you do that by carefully managing what goes into your body.
And to wrap this up, what is a motto or a quote or an inspirational idea that you live by day in and day out? Do you have one?
Yeah, there's a Thomas Miller quote, and it says, "The goal of life is not to accumulate power, but to radiate it."
So there you guys go. Don't accumulate the power, radiate it. Share it with me. Share it with you. Share it with your family. Don't take it all for yourself. Stop being greedy and share that stuff. We all need a little bit of that power. Radiate it the best you can. So, great interview with Dave Aspray. I hope you guys got a couple of great tips out of that. One big thing that I was really thrilled to talk to him about, not only the coffee, I think that's really cool, kind of crazy. Again, if you want to try it, great. If you don't, no problem. This is just a suggestion. It's just another tool for the toolbox. Not trying to force you guys into doing anything you don't want to do. Obviously, you're your own person. You're your own being. You need to do what you need to do day in and day out just to keep yourself ticking in the direction that you want to tick. There's another quote for you. Could tick in the direction you want to tick. Again, thanks, Dave, for coming on the podcast. You guys can go check him out at bulletproofexecutive.com. He also sells his own private label of coconut oil, MCT oil, and also coffee beans, along with some other tools that he has used to kind of hack his mind and body to performing the best that they can. Feel free to go to his store. And a little gift to you guys, I was able to score a 10% off coupon for you guys. It's called Operation Self Reset. Type that in the code when you are checking out, and you will get 10% off of your order. Feel free to go there. If you want to check it out, great. If you don't, no problem. Also, too, I gave you another free gift. What? 2 free gifts in one podcast? I know, it's ridiculously crazy cool. I actually made a YouTube video of me in my house making bulletproof coffee and yak butter tea. Go check it out on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Operation Self Reset. One word. There you will see all my videos, and it's called Bulletproof Coffee. Click on it, enjoy it, laugh at it, and make it if you want to. I'm just giving you the kind of 101 demonstration version of the Bulletproof Coffee. Hopefully you guys love it. Leave a comment. If you are listening to this on the go and you want to get the resources that were mentioned in today's podcast, go on over to operationselfreset.com/podcast 006. There you will find all the links to Bulletproof Executive, the links to his store, the links to some of the articles mentioned in today's podcast. So there you guys go. Again, thank you so much taking the time for listening. And if you haven't already, feel free to go on over to iTunes and leave a review for the podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. I thank you guys for all the reviews so far, and also to the comments that you guys have been sending me through the website. Feel free to email me directly, support@Operation Self Reset. It'll come to me, and we can talk. A lot of you guys are really opening up, and I'm trying to help you guys out individually, one at a time. So I'm behind on a couple of the emails, but I really do appreciate you guys warming up to me and asking me for suggestions and tips how to improve and reset your life. So keep them coming, and I'll try to answer each and every one of them. So again, guys, make it a great day. Do your best in striving for the perfect life that you crave and that you want. Again, thank you guys. We'll see you in episode number 7.